Knowing a strategy and implementing strategies effectively is not a task that every commander can easily accomplish. From time to time, some commanders may have effects that can change the history of the world with their decisions, and they may not even realize it. Some commanders' decisions can have a domino effect over a wide geographical area, while the others can even lead to the destruction of their own armies. Ukrainian commanders recently took a decision that could change the fate of the region, and this decision stunned Russia. So what is this decision? Let's take a look together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to convey the Russia-Ukraine war to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. The Black Sea Fleet is known as one of the most important units of the Russian Navy. This fleet largely represents Russia's military power in the Black Sea and can pose a serious threat to the countries of the region, with or without war. In support of these aggressive policies, Russian President Vladimir Putin has equipped the Black Sea Fleet with considerable new munitions and units. However, the plans did not work as it was expected, and the Ukrainian army has once again foiled Putin's plans. In recent days, the armed forces of Ukraine launched a large-scale missile strikes against the Russian targets on the Crimean Peninsula. During this attack, Russia's Belbek military airbase was hit and one of the senior commanders of the Russian army was killed in this attack. Before Russia could recover from the shock of this incident, it was shaken by the news of another attack. Moreover, this attack also took place in the Crimean Peninsula. Unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces destroyed the Ivanovets missiles boat of the Black Sea Fleet in a successful operation. Unmanned naval vehicles of the Ukrainian troops, which took action in the dark hours, reached the harbor where the Russian ships were anchored. There was only one entrance to the harbor, and this entrance was blocked with chains. From the sea, there was no chance for any vehicle to approach this area where the Russian ships were located. However, a very small opening remained at the entrance of the harbor. Probably the Russian military did not think that this opening will cause problems. The Ukrainian armed forces had monitored the area very well and made a detailed mapping. It took them a long time to realize that there was even a small opening through which one could enter the area because it was not really very obvious. However, an alert Ukrainian officer recognized this opening and informed his commanders that an attack could be launched from here. Thanks to the contribution of this careful officer, the Ukrainian military achieved another important success. The unmanned naval vehicles of the Ukrainian army entered through a small opening and directly hit the Ivanovets missile boat. With the impact of the unmanned naval vehicle, a great noise was heard in the area. The Russian soldiers suddenly woke up and took action to identify the source of the noise and scanned the surroundings to understand where the sound was coming from. Meanwhile, two more drones of the Ukrainian army managed to enter the area, and the Ivanovets missiles boat received 2 more hits. As a result of the hits, the Ivanovets missiles boat had 3 large holes and the corvette was on the point of sinking. Russian soldiers were surprised by this situation, but they could not do anything to prevent the sinking. The operation carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces had dealt a major blow to the Russian Navy. The Russian soldiers were surprised because they were sure that the small opening at the harbor entrance would not cause any problems. However, a careful Ukrainian officer had given them that this is shock. The Ivanovets missile boat, a key part of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, is known to be worth billions of dollars. In order to reproduce such a vehicle, Russia would have to spend a large amount of resources. However, it is known that Russia does not currently have the economic means to reproduce such a vehicle. Economic sanctions on Russia restricts its access to the resources necessary for their reproduction. In the successful operations of the Ukrainian army against the Russian occupation, a similar strategy is consistently observed. Firstly, the target is identified and the possible effects of these destructions are calculated. Then the target that can cause the greatest damage to the occupation forces is hit. In this way, the Ukrainian army carries out complex attacks on Russia's economy, industry, and military at the same time. This strategy has backed the Russian army into a corner. The losses of the Russian army in the land war are increasing day by day. At the same time, the strategic operations carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces are increasing the losses of ammunition and vehicles of the Russian army. The Russian people are now tired of being patient. Russian officials who make statements on a daily basis do not accept the losses suffered by Russia. However, most of the images and information shared by local sources reached the Russian people. Russia's concealment of its losses is remarkable. It was interesting that when the Russian army's Ivanov's missiles boat was destroyed, no statement came from the Russian official sources. After the news of the destruction of Ivanov's hit the press, Russian official sources focused on Putin's propaganda. Some sources even shared information that Putin was a great commander and a strategic genius, and fake images were served. Vladimir Putin, president of the Russian Federation, has plunged his country into a major crisis. At the moment, it is not making any efforts to get it out of the crisis. Not thus he seems likely to do so. Initially, Putin characterized the war as a special military operation, underestimating Ukraine's power, but Ukraine has completely changed the Russian leader's mind. Putin now believes that he has no choice but to continue, because if he does not continue the war, his prestige, which has already suffered a serious blow, will weaken even further. In order to preserve his prestige, Putin continued to fight, putting the entire Russian people at risk. In the ground war, the Ukrainian army continues to deal heavy blows to the Russian army. In recent days, the Russian army's losses of armored vehicles and tanks have increased significantly. The Ukrainian armed forces are neutralizing the vehicles of the Russian army using armor-piercing ammunition and unmanned aerial vehicles. Especially on the Donetsk front line around Avdiivka, the losses of the Russian armored vehicles are seriously increasing. Recently, the Ukrainian army managed to destroy a Russian armored vehicle. The Russian armored vehicle was stuck in the wooded area near the Avdiivka. According to the reports, the Russian armored vehicle requested artillery support, but no support was provided to the Russian soldiers in any way. The area was an active combat zone, but the Russian soldier persistently asked for support. However, this request could not be answered because the workload of the Russian artillery was too high. The Russian soldiers found a solution to escape, but he preferred to take a refuge with Ukrainian soldiers, not with his own friends. The Russian soldier surrendered to the Ukrainian soldiers with his hands on the head and informed that the Ukrainian soldiers where the vehicle was stuck. Ukrainian soldiers destroyed this vehicle with a kamikaze drone. Later, it was determined by the unmanned aerial vehicles that other Russian soldiers came to the area to take the vehicle, but they retreated after they seen that the vehicle was destroyed. And tell me, what do you think? Do you think that the Ukrainian army's attacks on Russian strategic targets will continue? Do you think the operations of the Ukrainian army are effective and sufficient? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.